Hello, I'm Jeff Lamarca. I'm the creator and author of Simple Citations for Genealogical Sources. I originally created the system many years ago for my own use after struggling with other systems, some of which are needlessly complex, confusing, and require considerable energy to complete a task that shouldn't be that difficult. Exploring your family tree can be both exhilarating and challenging. One of the most critical aspects of researching your family history concerns the importance of accurately documenting your information. In this video, I'm going to delve into the art of robust and accessible genealogical citations, arguably the most important component for constructing a family tree. So why is the process of documenting your sources so important? Have you encountered online or in print family trees adorned with captivating narratives and wild claims, yet devoid of verifiable sources? I know I certainly have. And if you have researched your family history for any length of time, it's more than likely that you have too. Unfortunately, this lack of rigor in documenting sources not only fuels misconceptions about your heritage, but also undermines the very essence of being a genealogical researcher. That is, to uncover facts regarding your own personal lineage. And here it is. Simple Citations is not just a guide, it's an approach to documenting genealogical evidence. This is a comprehensive system that enables researchers of all levels to navigate the complexities of source attribution with grace and confidence. It's designed to be very efficient and simple to use, and again, it is something that will aid all levels of genealogists, ranging from professional to the home hobbyist. Citing your sources is critical to your research. Indeed, citing your sources is extremely important. Accurate citations not only serve as mere formalities, but also as the very pillars of credible research. They offer invaluable benefits, including 1. Validation. Citing your sources helps to ensure that your family history rests on a foundation of verifiable sources, not just fleeting hearsay. 2, they offer transparency. Citing sources greatly facilitates collaboration and knowledge sharing between making your research path clear and replicable by others. And finally, 3, it's credibility. Citing your sources elevates your work to the highest standards, earning the respect of fellow research and institutions, and it will also make those who examine your research much more grateful that you were able to document all of your sources. Nothing is more frustrating than coming upon a family history which does not contain any sources. In those cases, that research would be considered invalid because we don't know where any of that information came from. Simple Citations was designed to demystify complex formats used by other systems by identifying 3 well-defined templates tailored to specific source types such as census records, books, magazines, journals, newspapers, and everything else. When Simple Citations was first designed, I created or attempted to create a single template that could be used for all sources. I didn't know if that was possible or not, but I was surprised to find that it was. Once I had identified what I was to call the master template, I also examined it further and discovered that that single template could be subdivided into 3 smaller ones in order to make data entry easier. And that is the basic model behind Simple Citations. As I just mentioned, the Simple Citations model was designed around a single template. I referred to that as the master template. In a moment, we're going to take a closer look at it. Okay, it's time now to look at the master template. In fact, we're going to take a closer look at the entire Simple Citations model. In this chart here, I want to first point out this column right here. Okay. In this column are labels for essentially every single field that may be used to accurately cite any possible source that you may find. And again, I mentioned it earlier, I examined a very wide and disparate group of possible sources when I developed this model, and this is what I came up with. So it's conceivable to use just the master template uh, because they include everything in the model. However, in practice, that's not necessary, simply because you can divide it into smaller templates, which makes the model much easier to use, reduces decision making, and just makes everything faster. So let's look at some of these sub-templates. These are all derived from the master's template, and the first one I'm going to look at is the traditional template. I started it with this because this is what you would typically find in a bibliography, as if you were writing a term paper or a book report or something along those lines that you may remember from back in your days in school. But these would include such types of sources as books, magazines, periodicals, newspaper articles, etc. And again, this is something you would find in a traditional bibliography. Now, if you look down this column, you'll notice that there are asterisks along some of the fields, but not all of them. Okay, that's because only those fields appear in that particular template. So in this case, if we go back up here, we don't have an asterisk here or here. I'm not going to explain why not, other than to say that those fields do not appear in the simple citations model on the traditional template. They exist elsewhere, but not on this particular template. Again, we can go into those details later on. The full explanation is both in the book and on the Simple Citations website. So that's the first thing. If there's an asterisk, then that field appears in that particular template. The next thing I want to point out are these rows that are highlighted in pink. If a row is highlighted in pink, that means you must enter something into that field on that particular template. So on the traditional template, you must, over here, it's pink and it's highlighted where the asterisk. That means you must enter something in that particular field to identify the author, creator, or the editor of whatever it is that you're documenting. Same thing here. The date. Dates are extremely important, and you'll see that it's a required field in all of the different templates. And so forth. So that's a basic understanding of how this model works. Now, let's look at some of the other templates. As I mentioned, the traditional template, this one right here, that refers to things that you would normally cite in a traditional bibliography. Next, I looked at non-traditional things, things that do not appear in a typical bibliography. Not surprisingly, a tremendous amount of our citations would appear using the non-traditional template. Here we notice that there's no asterisks under author, creator, or editor. Same thing as role, but we do have something called a primary creator, department or office, date, and so forth. And again, these are left blank. They don't appear on that template. We'll go into some of these in more detail later on. Finally, as I examine the model even closer, we have one type of source that is extremely common, particularly in U.S. genealogy research, and that's a census. We use census records as a primary reference or a source for a lot of our information going back the past a couple of hundred years. And so this template, again, you'll notice no asterisks here next to author, creator, editor, or role, but we do have primary creator, department or office, date, and again, nothing here and so forth. So this is a basic model. There are three templates that you can use: traditional, non-traditional, and census. I'm going to explain those in more detail in just a moment. Now that we've examined how the simple citations model was constructed, let's examine how it is used. First, we begin by examining the source. What is it? That's quite a simple process, and you'll see that in action in just a moment. Next, you have to fill in the template that's associated with that particular type of source. And finally, you're going to generate a citation. If you use one of the templates that are available for Family Historian 7 or Roots Magic, the software application will generate the citation automatically for you. If not, then you're going to have to generate that citation manually. That's described in detail in the book. Let's begin. We're going to look at this flow chart, and we're going to look at the box at the top, which asks, what is your source or document? For this, you're going to go down, follow the arrow, and the first item we come to are census records. If it is a census record, then yes, you're going to go over to the census template in the book that is described in Chapter 7. If it is not a census record, and it's a book, magazine, newspaper, periodical, anything that might be included in a traditional bibliography, then yes, you're going to go to the traditional template, and that's located in the book in Chapter 8. If it is not those types of sources, then you're going to go down to the final bubble, which includes everything else. And in that case, you only have one choice. You're going to go to the non-traditional template, which is described in the book in Chapter 9. Now that we've examined the flow chart for simple citations, let's take a closer look at each of the three templates that are available. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to use the templates created for Family Historian 7 rather than those created for Roots Magic. I find Family Historian to be a far more accessible program. It's easier to use. It's far more powerful, less time consuming, and it's overall just a better program, at least in my opinion. So now we're going to look at the census template. And here you can see when I open it up, it puts the name of the template here. And that's generated automatically. You don't put anything there. But the first field that we're going to enter is for primary creator. And you see the asterisks right there? That means we must put something in this field. In this case, it's going to be the name of the large governmental entity that created it or is responsible for it. Generally, this is going to be a country or a state. In this case, I'm going to put United States as the entity that is responsible for this particular census. The next field does not have an asterisk in it, but department or office. And here, I'm going to put the cursor there. I could use a tab key too, but for this exercise, I'm just going to use the cursor so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to put Bureau of the Census. Okay. Easy, right? Next, we're going to come down to the date field. It's got an asterisk. That means we must put something in there. Okay, that's a required field. I'm going to just make up a date right now, and this is probably not correct, but I'm going to put 1st of April, let's say 1930. Okay, that's the date that the census was enumerated. The next field is also required, the source description. Again, very important, but we know what that is already. It's the 1930. You helps if I learn how to type, doesn't it? As census, and that's all we need to do. When we go down to the next field, person or persons of interest, census records often contain entire families. If that's the case, and there's more than one individual in a household, we're just going to say we're going to enter the name John Doe family. John Doe is listed as the head of household for that family, and so we're going to put that in. That's the easiest way to deal with that. The next two fields, publisher and publisher location, are rarely used for census records. In a few cases, I've come across instances where census records have been published in books. If that's the case, then I would put that there. Otherwise, I'm going to leave those blank, which is nearly always the case. We're going to go down further to the next field, page number or numbers. Census records often have many different kinds of labels. Sometimes they're pages, sometimes they're sheets. I'm just going to put sheet A1 in this case. I'm making this up. Okay, now this is an interesting field. The next one, person. We already have person or persons of interest, so we've listed the entire family there, at least the John Doe family. But down here, we can enter the individual names. So in this case, let's say that John Doe's mother-in-law is listed as living in his household. So her name is going to be Mary Brown. Okay. If his wife was living there or children, we would create one of these for each of those individuals. The next field, location, this is a really interesting one. It's a very time-saving feature, which you find in Family Historian, but not in Roots Magic. If I click on this field here, I can begin just entering a few letters, and it'll automatically populate the field with any um, locations that come close to that. And you'll see what I mean in just a minute. I'm going to type in, let's say the family lives in Los Angeles. So I'm going to type in, typed in one letter. In Los Angeles County, California, United States, automatically populated the field. Isn't that great? It's really a nice feature. And Family Historian will populate this field with anything that's currently listed in the database. So as you add more places, you'll have more names to choose from. And this also helps prevent additional errors, data entry, and just makes things much more efficient and easier to compile or to add. The next two fields, Census Enumeration District and Census House ID, these are both very optional fields. I debated whether or not I wanted to include them or not in the model. I kind of like them. They can be useful in helping to relocate the source again, so I left them. In this case, for Census Enumeration District, let's say it's Enumeration District 36. I'm going to go down, click, with a tab, Census House ID and Family ID. So I'll put dwelling 25 and family, let's say they're 26. And again, this will be dependent upon each individual source that you're examining. Now, the next field, repository unique item. This is something that's a little bit different. And here, I'm not going to use it right now, so we're going to ignore it. I'll explain it later on, but we're not going to put anything in that field. Next, primary repository. I generally like to put the place where I observed that particular census record. For now, let's say it's going to be Ancestry. See this button right here, this little gear? This is another feature available in Family Historian, but not Roots Magic. If you click on this, another window will open up. You cannot see that because the program I'm using to create this video doesn't show that, but it opens up another window and it'll list all of the repositories currently in the database. So I'm going to find one that says ancestry.com. I'm not promoting them, I'm just using it as an example. And when I click on it, it automatically populates the field. Isn't that cool? Next, I'm going to come down to the URL, and there are a couple ways of dealing with the URL. One, you can type it in, and if it's a subscription service like Ancestry, you can use just the top level domain. In other words, https://www.ancestry.com or whatever. I'm just going to cut and paste something right now. And here, this is a fictitious URL. However, an argument can also be made that you should include the full URL when recording it in a citation. And I think there may be some merit to that, but I'll let you decide which you would like to use. Next, the date that I actually observed this particular document. Let's say it's today, so it's January 19th, 2024. Next, miscellaneous reference number. That's almost always left blank. I'm not going to put anything there right now. And a personal ID number. This also does not appear in the citation. It is only there to encourage you to assign some kind of cataloging number or name or label to every single piece of document that you ever see, obtain, look at, whatever. And you maintain a copy, either hard copy or an electronic copy that you keep filed neatly in some kind of folder system on your desktop. So there we have it. This is the census template for a fictitious family in 1930. Now, if you look up here, right up here, you can also see that the citation has been generated. Isn't that cool? So this is what's going to be used if you print reports within Family Historian, or you can cut and paste it and use it elsewhere. But that's the completed citation. It's really pretty easy, isn't it? Hopefully you'll find it is. Now that we've looked at the census template, let's look at the next one, the traditional template. You can see that the template is automatically listed here when we open it up to enter data. A couple things. I want to mention, first of all, this title up here. This is something that is automatically generated by Family Historian. It gives this citation a friendly name, if you will. We can adjust it later, but you'll see as we enter data in our fields down here, things are going to start popping up here as well. In addition, I already mentioned it, but the citation will start taking form as we enter data into each of the fields here. Let's begin. As this is a traditional template, we have an author or editor or someone or several individuals who created the book. For now, let's just say the book is written by Martin Crowley. Okay. And when we hit enter or move our cursor down, his role in this book, let's say he was the editor. Okay. And we hit enter, and you see over here, his name's already listed. Crowley Martin, editor. Now, as I've mentioned previously, anything with an asterisk must have or is a required field. So this is the date that the book was published. So we'll say it was 1890. Okay, hit enter. The name of the book, let's give it the History of the American Farm. All right. And again, this is a required field. And down here, if it has a subtitle to the book, we'll say Berks County Families. Okay, that's just a fictitious name. So the name of the book is History of the American Farm, Berks County Families. Title is used if you have a chapter that your specific chapter. We're not going to do that here. Essentially, most traditional records will have a publisher. In this case, let's give it a name of the Berks County Publishing Company. Okay, again, this is just fictitious. And publisher location. This follows the rules of a traditional type of citation system. Uh, uh, APA, MLA, Chicago, Turabian, one of the traditional ones. So in this case, we're just going to list a city and a state or country. So let's say it was published in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. There we go. And again, you can see the citation is filling out over here. That's all we need for this part up at the top. At the bottom, let's go on, and the information for this particular citation was found on page 154. Okay? And the person that we are looking at on this page, her name happens to be Sally Holly. Okay, there we go. Again, this is just a fictitious name. And the book describes Berks County family. We know she lives in Berks County. So what we're going to do, we don't know the name of the city. It's not mentioned in, or the town. It's not mentioned in this book. But we're going to enter comma and then a B. And you can see it's automatically populated because this particular information is already in my database. So it just draws upon that and automatically fills that in. A great time saver. Repository unique item, we're going to ignore that again for now. Generally speaking, if you are citing a book or a traditional source, you don't need to put this down, the primary repository. But if you really want to, you can. I often do it for items such as newspaper articles that may be difficult to find. And the same thing also applies to the URL. I'm going to leave those blank for now. And the date the file accessed. Let's say we found this book today, 19th of January, 2024, and it's automatically or not automatically populated, but it formats everything. Reference number, I usually leave this blank. You may want to put a call number there if you really want to, but I generally don't unless it's a difficult to find item. Personal ID number, we've discussed that. This is your own cataloging system that's not part of the citation. But now let's look up at the top here. Here's the completed citation. Isn't that nice? And the title and the subtitle are italicized, punctuation's added for you, the whole bit. That's the beauty of using templates. All right, the third and final template we're going to examine is a non-traditional template, as you can see right here. Again, there are only 3 templates for all of the simple citation system, and that makes it very, very easy to use. Let's pretend now that we have a headstone, a photograph of a headstone that I took myself, and I had visited the cemetery, took the photograph, and now that's something we want to cite and document. With a headstone, you see, first of all, the primary creator label is required, but we don't know who actually created the headstone, who carved it or where it came from. But we do know where it is located and who maintains it or what entity maintains it or did maintain it at some time. In this case, we're going to say it's at a certain cemetery. Listing the name of the cemetery is probably the most appropriate in this situation, but we're going to call it the Happy Time Cemetery. Obviously, that's a fictitious name, but I'm using it just for an example. There's no department or office. Coming down here to date, that's required. More than likely, we don't know the exact date of burial or when the headstone may have gone up or the actual date when the headstone was installed. So we can use the date of death, which is nearly always listed on the headstone. And let's say that was the 16th of August, 1896. Okay, when I click that and everything looks okay. Source description. We have to provide a description of this. So I'm going to call it a headstone because that's what it is. But I'm also took a photograph of it. So I'm going to list that as well. Photograph. Okay. And person or persons of interest. Let's take a family. It's not uncommon to find more than one individual buried on the same plot and listed on the headstone. So let's say that we are looking at a headstone that contains the remains of the Brown family. We have the husband, Frank Brown, the wife, Mary Brown, and several of their children listed on the headstone. So what are we going to do here? As it's a family, I'm just going to list Brown family. That's good enough for a person or persons of interest at this point. If it's a headstone that only contains one individual or grave, then you would list just that individual here and nothing else. There is no page number, so we don't need to put anything. Now, name of the individual. We will create a citation for each person in that grave who is listed on that headstone. So for this one, let's just say Frank Brown. Okay. Where was he buried? Okay. Where is the location of this headstone? Let's say it's Erie. Oh, look at that. I press E and the whole thing pops up. Again, because it's in my database. Now it's time to discuss repository unique item. As I mentioned, I was the individual who took this photograph, and the photograph is in my possession. It hasn't been published. Nobody else has a copy. I'm the only one who has it. It's a very unique item. So in this case, I'm going to show you the hint that's displayed on the template. we would put either privately held by, if it's owned by an individual, or copy in possession of. Let's say somebody has a scanned copy of the photograph, but they're not the original person who has it. As I'm the person who owns the photograph, I'm the only one in the world who has it, I'm going to list privately held by. Unfortunately, we have to actually type that in manually. The templates currently are not capable of adding that sentence in or that phrase. Now, primary repository, as I mentioned, I'm the one who has the photograph. I'm going to click on this button. You won't be able to see it, but I'm going to select the repository, and my name is listed, and I will find it and enter it, and it just pops in automatically. Very nice. There is no URL. The date that I took the photograph, the date the file was accessed or the source was accessed. Let's say I took it on May the 19th, 1997. All right. Miscellaneous reference number, there is none, although you might put a plot number here, a grave number, some other information that may be available to help relocate that grave. GPS coordinates. You don't have to put anything there, but if it's helpful, that's a good place to put it. And finally, a personal ID. I assigned a cataloging number to everything, so my photograph is going to have some kind of ID. It doesn't appear in the citation. And up here, we have the completed citation, and everything's formatted properly. Rather easy, isn't it? So we've now examined all three templates, and that's really all there is to it. And there you have it. As you can see from the examples on the left, we constructed three different citations using the three simple citations templates. These examples demonstrate that simple citations has a unifying framework that embraces uniformity with consistent citation structures for all sources regardless of their nature. In addition, simple citations provide simple step-by-step guidance. This allows you to master the application of templates. The book also provides both clear instructions and practical examples, enables you to confidently navigate even the most intricate sources. In other words, it should help you cite your sources very easily. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it's been helpful for you. If you wish to learn more about how to create accurate and accessible citations, check out the links in the description below to find out more about the book, Simple Citations for Genealogical Sources, or to visit the Simple Citations website, which also describes the system. Anyways, good luck, and be sure, no matter which system you use, to always cite your sources.